capable of doing. I'm not asking an athlete to be All-American if he's not capable of doing that. But let's take Timmy Brown as an example. Timmy Brown was capable of being an All-American. We weren't going to accept for anything less than the best he could do, and if he did the best he could do, he would perform as an All-American. See, I coached for a guy named Woody Hayes. I love and admire and respect Woody Hayes. Anybody that ever played or coached for Woody Hayes loves him. But people on the outside say, how can you like him? It's simple. He wouldn't accept less than the best you're capable of doing, and he believed in you so strongly, that's why he wouldn't accept less. Woody didn't want to be popular. Woody didn't want to have everybody saying, boy, isn't he a great guy? What Woody Hayes wanted to do was to get the maximum out of everybody he ever came in touch with, and I firmly believe he probably came closer to doing that than anybody else. Oh, he screamed, he hollered, he yelled, but the one thing that prevailed among it all was he did it in your best interest because he wasn't going to accept mediocrity. I coach very simple. I'm not very smart. When I coached the secondary at Ohio State and we won the national championship, I said, hey, when they run, come up. When they pass, go back. You know, just don't get complicated and cover the guy they threw to. Don't cover the decoy. Well, Jack Tatum said, you know, keep it simple. You know, Jack Tatum said, well, how do you know who the decoy is? I said, that's the guy they don't throw to. You know, just, but, you know, like Woody Hayes and I went out to the Ohio State, went out to the Rose Bowl, and Coach Hayes and I got in a dissertation about the best way to defend OJ, and the last thing he said was he better not score a touchdown. Well, perhaps you remember the game, January 1, 1969. Second quarter, Southern Cal had the ball first down and 10 on their own 20. O.J. Simpson took a handoff, went 80 yards for a touchdown, and I was very happy at the time. I was up in the press box. Woody Hayes was on the sideline, and walked to the locker room. First thing transpired was Woody Hayes come up and grabbed my jugular vein. He was trying to get my attention. You know, he hollered, why'd O.J. go 80 yards? And I said, Coach, that's all he needed. You know, if the ball's on the 10, it's gone 90. It isn't real complicated because they know. But that rule, don't accept anything less than the best you're capable of doing. And the third rule that we have on our football teams, the last rule, is treat other people as you would like to be treated. Not real complicated. Do what's right. I happen to have a strong faith in God. I'm not going to make this religious speech, but I feel if I do what's right, I'm going to sort of like myself, and I'm going to sort of be successful. Number two is do the best I can. Whether anybody's looking or not, do I put my name on it? We try to look at every job we ever do and say, would I go up there and would I write my name and want everybody in the country to know this is what I did? When somebody walks in my office, I'd like to be proud of that office. I'd like that office to be neat. Doesn't have to be fancy, but I'd like it to act like, hey, I'm proud of where I am and I'm proud of who I am. And the third thing is just treat other people as you'd like to be treated. Now, why is that so important? You say, well, gee, that's so simple. Why do you guarantee success? Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are three key questions that everybody asks about you. Everybody you come in touch with. Every employee of every employer. Every husband of every wife of every husband. Every parent of every child and vice versa. Every player of every coach. They ask three key questions that guarantee success. The first question everybody asks about you, and I don't care who we're talking about. You can be talking about a customer or Southern Bell. The question everybody asks, number one, is, can I trust you? Can I trust you? I can't emphasize how important that key question is. At the University of Notre Dame, we have a chance to be successful if the players can trust us and if we can trust the players. If they can't trust us or we can't trust them, we have absolutely no chance to be successful. So we always go down to everybody that we're working with, everybody on our football team, and we say, can we trust them? Can we trust them to do what they say they're going to do, to be at the right place at the right time, doing the right things? See, it's got to be based on trust. My wife must be able to trust me explicitly, and I must be able to trust her. If she can't trust me or I can't trust her, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way in this world we can have a relationship. The customers have to be able to trust Southern Bell. Why have you had great success? People trust Southern Bell. They trust your product. They trust your service. They trust what you have put together. And if the players can trust me and I can trust them, we got a chance. But without it, we have none. That's why I try to make sure if I tell them I'm going to do something, that I'm going to do it from the bottom of my heart. Second question every now. People say, can I trust you? If you do what's right, you're going to generate trust. And if you don't do what's right, you aren't going to generate trust. That goes all the way along the line. Do what's right. Well, answer the question, can I trust you? The second question everybody asks, are you committed to excellence? Do you really want to be the very best? Or are you just treading water? Are you just talking about being the very best? Or are you really doing something about it? Are you working that worthwhile going? Do you believe what you're saying? And do you know what you're talking about? Are you committed to excellence in everything you do? 1976, I was at North Carolina State, and boy, what a great place. I really enjoyed North Carolina State. I remember when I first went there, our first game was against the University of Syracuse and then Maryland, and then we played our arch rival, North Carolina. We went over there and we lost a heartbreaker, 36-35. Next year, we beat them twice as bad as they beat us, which made up for it. We beat them 28-26. So I'll never forget being over there, and as the seconds ticked off 3-2-1, we snapped the ball over the kicker's head with 51 seconds to go. The score was tied 27-all. Carolina recovered it on our 6-inch line. And then on third down, pounded their way into the end zone to take a 34-27 lead, or excuse me, 34-27 lead. We came back and scored in the last 50 seconds with 10 seconds when Pat Kenny made a great catch. We went for two and we didn't make it. We lost 35-34. The year before we had lost to them 36-35 when I was at William & Mary, when they went for two in the last 10 seconds. I'll never forget walking off that field and hearing the people say, "Moo you and agriculture you." And I got in a great deal of difficulty with the people there when I said to the press, I still feel that agriculture is a lot better than no culture, which I learned here. I'll never forget that feeling in that locker room, and the only thing I could think to say to them was, nothing's as good as it seems and nothing's as bad as it seems, but somewhere in between there reality falls. And that's really true. You don't keep score, you just keep a total commitment to excellence in everything we do. Doing the very best we can, but I was so happy at NC State, and the New York Jets called me. I turned the job down 3 different times. When I finally accepted it, I said to my wife and family, I'm not sure this is what I want to do, but let's go see what it's like. If we don't like professional athletics, we can always come back to intercollegiate athletics. And I went up there, signed a 5-year contract, stayed 8 months, and left. I was the most miserable individual in this world, and I can't say a negative thing about professional football. Leon Hess was a beautiful person, but the whole problem was I was not committed. I went up there saying, boy, I hope this works out. Gee, it'd be nice if this does. I get up every morning saying, I'm not sure this is what I want to do. Every time a problem came along, I'd say, I didn't think this would work out. I don't think this is worth the problem. I was not committed. I went to New York, which sure would have been the most glamorous job in the country. The Big Apple and all the variety of things, with a great organization and a great president, yet I was so miserable. And I left after 8 months, even though I signed a 5-year contract. Nobody will understand the embarrassment, the ridicule I experienced for several years after leaving the Jets. But the point I say to you, the same individual went to the New York Jets and left after 8 months because he didn't have a commitment. The same guy went to the University of Minnesota and a job that absolutely nobody wanted. The job was completely down, and yet when I look back on my experience in Minnesota, it was an incredible experience and one I wouldn't change for anything in this world. What was the difference? Certainly wasn't the situation. It wasn't the weather. It wasn't the exposure. It wasn't the money, because New York Jets had it all over. The only difference was within me. It was a commitment that I had made when I went to the University of Minnesota, which was lacking when I went with the New York Jets. I don't tell you this story to help my self-image, because that still bothers me to a certain extent. But I tell you that you might be able to benefit from my experiences, because if people aren't committed to getting something done, then there's no way in this world that you're going to be successful to the degree you wish to in the long run. The depth of the degree of the commitment is usually going to be to the same depth of the degree of the success you achieve. When people say, are you committed to excellence? Do you want to be the very best? And if you and everybody in your organization refuse to do anything except less than the best that you're capable of doing, that'll answer the question, are you committed to excellence? And the last question is a very important one. Do you care about me? Do you care about me and the problems I have? I forget the gentleman's name that spoke prior to the break, but I think during the course of his speech he made mention of the fact that he is probably the largest account you had last year. Can you imagine the tremendous amount of pressure is on the individual when he makes a decision to go with Southern Bell for a tremendous amount of money, input. For him to say, do you care about me when things go wrong? And as he said, boy, the service has been great. It's worked out tremendous. That's all because he trusts your company. He believes you're committed to being the best. But it also was obvious during the course of his speech that he really truly felt you cared about him and the problems he had. And if he did have a problem, you were going to come run there immediately, not just because he's the biggest customer, but because you cared about him as a person and as an individual. To me, that caring is ultra important in everything we do. 1979, I think it was, I had to make a speech to Herr Hilton. I got in there about 1:30 in the morning. I was speaking the next morning. Walked up to the guy behind the desk, said, my name's Lou Holtz. I have reservations. Well, I must have woken him up. He was quite nasty and hostile. He said, you don't have reservations. I said, listen, I got reservations. I got confirmed reservations. I don't want a hard time. I just want my key, and I want silence. And he said, you aren't going to stay here. I said, listen, you don't understand. Read, confirmed reservation, Lou Holtz. He said, you don't understand. I got the keys. He said, you ain't staying here. Well, one word led to the other. The argument got rather hot, and at 1:35 in the morning it was obvious to me it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work out, and the only thing I could do was aggravate the situation, so I decided to depart. And at 1:35, I went out into the cold Chicago air to find another place to stay. And I looked back, and he was probably already going back to sleep, from which I'd probably awakened him when I arrived in the lobby. But I made a vow to myself that time, which I've kept for 7 years. I said, Lou Holtz, he won the argument because he had the keys. I said, never again will you have an opportunity to speak to a prominent, successful group, such as we have assembled here today, that you do not take the opportunity to knock the Herr Hilton. And for the past 7 years, I've done that. So I say you can win the argument with intimidation and because you have the power, but it will come back to hurt you in the long run. The question, do you care about me? Building a business after deregulation's got to give you a great thrill. And I think you probably realize how difficult it is to build something from the ground up. But I love the poem that says, I saw a group of men tearing the building down. A group of men in my hometown. With a heave and a hoe and a mighty yell, they swung a beam and the sidewall fell. And I said to the foreman, are these men skilled? The type you'd hire if you wanted to build? And he laughed and said, why, no, indeed. I said, common labor is all I need. If I can tear down a day or two, it would have took a builder 10 years to do. I thought to myself as I walked away, which of these roles am I going to play? It's really true, ladies and gentlemen. We can tear people down, we can tear an organization down, but anybody can do that. That's a common person can tear something down. But to build something from the ground up in the proper manner the way you have done it, it's a real tribute. It takes a special individual to do that. Common labor can tear down, but it takes a rare individual to build from the ground up because you've got to be at your best day after day. To me, I think the most important thing in teamwork is caring for one another. I've never had a problem with an athlete or a coach if they were there for the same purpose as I was. As long as we're there for the same purpose, which is one, to see it they graduate, and two, see it we win, we've never had a problem. We've had a disagreement how to obtain it. But we do have a problem if an individual's there just to be on scholarship. If an individual's there to get his name in the paper. If an individual's there to play because his parents want him to play. If an individual happens to be there because he wants to do his own special thing, I've got a problem. And I know this being videotaped, and I don't think about it except occasionally something will flash my mind. I wasn't aware of it, but I guess we got some folks dancing in the end zone. Because I can't see that far anymore, but I'll assure you one thing. We won't have that again next year. Our guys are going to act like they've been there before. I say that, but I say it from my heart, as long as they're all there for the same purpose, which is to graduate and help us win the national championship, we aren't going to have problems. It isn't going to be difficult to get them to work, to get them difficult to be motivated, to do things. But football is a team. It's like a chain. It takes 11 guys doing the right thing, and we lost 4 football games, as I mentioned on the last play game, and I'll guarantee you, in every single game, someone along the line decided they were going to do their own thing. And every time we could have 10 guys doing it, It takes 11. You can have a chain with 11 links in it, and boy, 10 of those links can be strong.